Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hayden Newberry Fishing. I promise you, I haven't forgot that I have a YouTube channel. I have just been super busy lately. Haven't been able to post as many videos. Hopefully that'll change here soon. I think that I'm going to start having some more time to post them. And we'll just keep posting fishing videos, me talking about stuff. I'm wanting to interview actually a few people that I think the bass fishing community would be interested to hear from, and on some topics that I feel like aren't talked about enough. So look forward to that. I'm still working on getting all that stuff set up so that it can happen. But I hope that before too long we'll be able to get one of those together and show you guys some interesting things. But making some jigs in the garage today. This is actually my bread and butter jig that I've used over the last few years. It's still naked. It doesn't have anything on it. I'm not gonna release it quite yet. I'm still tweaking a few things on it. But this exact jig here has caught me a lot of tournament fish in the past few years, with the color and everything that I like to put on it, and I'll walk everybody through that eventually. That won't be on this video type of thing, but still going to continue tweaking some things this year. But here before too long, I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk about it on the channel, let you guys know what I'm doing with it, how I fish it, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, video today is about me being wrong. Going into this entire year, some of the things that I predicted are wrong, and I'm really just kind of surprised about it, and I want to talk you guys through it and maybe share some of my thoughts on it, I guess. But going into this year, I thought that it would benefit the schedule of the Bassmaster Elite Series, would benefit sight fishermen and shallow fishermen. I thought it was going to be the first however many tournaments were going to be won by just looking at them, cool shallow stuff. That was how they were going to be won. Hasn't been the case. LiveScope won 3 or 4 out of however many. The Classic was one on the LiveScope. Okeechobee was on the LiveScope. Murray was the only one so far now that was won by a sight fisherman looking at them, which is nice to see, because it seems like every time you turn around, LiveScope has somehow eked out another win. And that is what I want to talk about, because there is, I guess, a more interesting angle than just, oh, look, LiveScope won another tournament. All you got to do is go out there and look at your front unit and you win another tournament. But the interesting angle, a few interesting angles, I guess, are how they're being won with LiveScope. It's a lot of just kind of weird, some of it off the wall stuff, standing timber fishing down on Okeechobee, fishing like almost like a little point coming off of a spot where the water was draining in and everything. Just but the most interesting one, I guess, is them being caught strictly off of the bed with LiveScope. Now, well, I want to highlight that because down on Okeechobee, a lot of people talked about them using LiveScope on them shallow. That was a different, and I know this from personal experience, that was a different situation of like catching them using LiveScope. A lot of guys were talking about Steve Kennedy using LiveScope, catching them out of the dollar pads. I'm just going to tell you guys that the way Steve Kennedy was fishing, he was not looking at a lot of them he was catching on LiveScope, because when you have all that vegetation in the water, you can't see them. So he was fishing big open patches in the dollar pads and stuff. If you go take LiveScope out and that stuff, I promise you guys, it would be extremely difficult to look at every single one of them you were catching, especially like on beds and stuff. But the Santee Cooper tournament, for me, knowing how it works and everything, that sets up really well that he was most likely, from what I saw and what I know from fishing that lake personally, he was looking at them on the bed. I mean, absolutely going up to those cypress trees and watching those fish swim around and catching them off the bed. And that is the situation that I made a video about. And originally, I made a second video saying I told you so, because originally there was some people that said, oh, you can't just go down the bank and look at them on the bed with live scope. And I was talking about specific situations, that being the ones like Santee Cooper where he could roll up and see them, that we need rules around it. Because in that situation, trying to think of how to word this, in that situation, we need rules around it, because he was very obviously looking out on the bed. But say guy rolls up to the cypress trees, sees one on probably the bed with his live scope, tosses over there, doesn't hook it in the mouth. Is that legal or not legal? If he's claiming that it wasn't on a bed, or I don't know. Can you bedfish with live scope and snag them and it be legal if you're not technically looking at them? There's a lot of gray area there. Anyway, back to the topic of me being wrong. I guess I just like to talk about stuff I'm right about. But it's that I thought it was going to benefit the shallow bed fishermen, all that, and it hasn't at all when it comes to winning. So another angle that I wanted to hit on in this video is that it's winning a lot, but I'm going to be really interested, and I'm going to make a whole video about it, of going back and looking at how many top 10s it got, though. Has it only gotten like 4 or 5 top 10s so far? The strictly looking at them on live scope. Has it gotten 10 top 10s so far? And if it has only gotten 10 top 10s so far, that means that the majority of the guys in the top 10 aren't strictly using live scope. So statistically speaking, you wouldn't be more benefited to go hardcore into the live scope game. And it's just interesting to see, because it's getting into the top 10 is a huge deal, and that's kind of what you shoot for. You don't necessarily, it's very hard to say I'm going to go for first place. You're just going for as high as you can finish. And a lot of times the difference between first, second, third, fourth, fifth might be just a couple bites, a couple lost fish, things like that. So if there was only one live scoper in the top 10 in a sight fishing tournament, and he won by a pound, that to me doesn't mean I need to go looking at him on live scope. That just means that he was fortunate enough to win out of the 10 sight fishermen that were bed fishing. He could have just as easily got fifth if maybe a couple of his fish weighed a little less, if maybe third place lost a 10-pounder. You just don't know. Those are things that really happen in tournaments. That's why getting a top 10 is such a huge deal. Winning's awesome, but you just can't control necessarily like what your fish are going to weigh. You're obviously going to try to catch the biggest fish you can, but over 4 days, if you lose by a pound, first and second guy were on the same deal. One guy just caught a couple fish that weighed a little more, or one guy lost one or something. So what I'm getting at is that if you're watching these tournaments, seeing live scope win a bunch, that doesn't necessarily mean that live scope is the best thing that they were doing, unless live scope was the majority of the top 10. Is all I'm saying. But it does seem to be eking out a lot of wins, which is what I was drastically wrong about, because I absolutely did not see this happening. I didn't see live scope dominating the first place spot so far this season, because we haven't went up north or anything yet. These are Florida, Santee Cooper tournaments, and then Murray, the one that really had a clear-cut possibility of, I mean, there's herring and stuff in that lake. If that tournament would have been timed wrong at all, a sight fisherman wouldn't have won that. It would have been a live scope tournament. So just kind of interesting parts of it that I was wrong about, for sure. Another thing that I was wrong about is that the whole specialist thing. I made a video about that, that it really seemed like everybody was so well-rounded nowadays that the cool like specialist guy that like did, you know, what I mentioned in that video was like Dean Rojas, you know, known for throwing a frog and everything. I felt like that was kind of dying out. Like everybody just had to be so well-rounded nowadays that you don't have those those guys that hold that position of that guy. You know, that's what he's doing, that type of thing. But I will go back on that, I guess, and say that I think the sight fisherman at least still holds that position. The guy, the hardcore sight fisherman, the Drew Bentons and things like that that are still out there doing it that way. John Cox is kind of in his own specialty realm. I feel like he's just his own entity that's out there fishing. But the sight fishermen kind of hold that. I know that there's going to immediately be people who say, well, the live scope specialty. I don't consider that a specialty. I don't think there's such thing as a live scope specialist. I guess there probably is a guy that's just like so stupid good at live scope, but live scope can be used in so many different ways. And you see guys catch them on the bed with it. You see guys catch them out deep with it, mid range, all that stuff. So I don't know. It's more of a tool to use in every aspect. Like the sight fisherman that learns how to sight fish with live scope is most likely just going to be an even better sight fisherman. But I don't know. Yeah, that's all I'm saying about that. But you can get mad if you want. But I was definitely wrong about the specialty thing. I think at least the sight fishermen are holding up that end of the deal. But that might eventually fade out too if live scope just keeps charging forward. Everybody's learning how to use live scope everywhere, and I guess it's interesting to watch for now. I hope that it doesn't keep going, truthfully. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Be posting more consistently here soon, and some different content. Thanks for watching.